Hey, so I have a question for you.
Okay.
So I've been thinking about relationships. Go figure. I always think about them. I'm always talking about them. But there was one aspect of relationships that I kind of was thinking about the other day. So I just wanted to ask you your thoughts on it. Yeah, I have to do this. He had something on his eyebrow.
She's always making sure that my face is perfect.
And
And my
see,
hair.
look, it's perfection right now.
She will sneak up on me with tweezers. Okay, I'm kicking it on the couch, right? Just like relaxing. And she'll sneak up behind with tweezers and go, ooh, let me get that.
True story.
She is the reason my eyebrows are perfect.
I am. That's love, babe.
It's love.
It's love. So anyway,
Did I throw you off?
You did. That's okay. So the question I had for you, because I was thinking about relationships, and so many people have relationships where they just live two separate lives.
Yes.
And some people have them where they live together, their life together, and then some people have, a mixture of both. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on, what does it look like to live separate lives?
Yeah. I think that, it can happen for multiple different reasons. I think like when two highly independent people get together, it's hard for them to like become unified and become one in a sense. They have their own bank accounts, their own jobs, their own cars or whatever. And then coming together and trying to mesh together is kind of hard.
Yeah.
For some people, I think they might feel like they're losing their independence, and so I think that's a thing that can happen. But I think, do we go into the relationship with the other person with the idea of becoming one, becoming unified? And this will go, and I'm not knocking on people. Okay, I'm not trying to knock on people, but do you still have separate bank accounts? Or both of you have a career, and do you guys like sit there and discuss, your work life and stuff like that? So, honestly, the most practical thing becoming unified and becoming one would be in the area of finances.
Yeah.
Because,
I agree.
okay, here's an example.
Okay.
If you're not one in your finances and each one has their own bank accounts, for example, and their own credit cards, is there any sort of accountability with the credit cards? And so is there, do you just like charge it up and then you don't worry because the bill's in your name? And so you have this independent function in your life. If you had like togetherness, maybe the other person would be like, "Woo, that's a little much in credit cards." You know what I mean? Just a little example like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like that. When we got together, obviously we had been living as single people, so you had your checking account, I had mine. When we came together, after we'd been together for a while and we had been living together, one day I thought, this is really weird. And so I came up to you and I talked to him like, honey, we've been living together for a while. Isn't it kind of weird that we have our own checking accounts? And neither of us had really thought about it until that point. And when I brought it up, you were like, that is really weird. So, it was like within the week we were at the bank and we had each other on, each other's accounts. And now we just have the one. So, we were on each other's accounts and we could spend from either account. But since then, we have one account that we use.
Right.
So.
That along with finances is people that make financial decisions alone and apart, that can't be very healthy. Especially in a relationship where you need to consider the needs and the desires of the other person. So the question I'd ask is, as far as finances, are you together on that? Are you making decisions together, or are you making independent decisions apart from your mate?
Yeah. With us, I'm the one that pays the bills. And
Yes.
so when you get paid, it's like, okay, this is how much we have, and I always have a set number that I can spend on bills, and then everything else is for whatever, just for living on. But even though I'm the one that pays the bills, it's like, hey, babe, as I'm doing it, or before I start doing the bills or something, I'm like, well, this week I'm paying power and the internet and cell phones. And, I tell you exactly what's being paid.
Right.
I tell you how much is being paid. So even though I do it, you're completely in the loop and you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And I think, a challenge to the men out there, you do want to know where your money's going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be involved in that process. I hate bills. As much as lives within me, I would have every bill on auto payment so I can just forget about it.
Yeah.
And that's usually the way I operate. So, having you do the bills and then you discussing or letting me know, how much money's left or whatever works.
Yeah. So it works for us. But, it's so important, and even for women, if the husband does the bills, what happens if, heaven forbid, your husband died and you didn't know a single thing about the bills?
Yeah.
Well, that's not good. So, in both cases, because, we have a bill we pay with my paycheck, but then all the other bills are on your paycheck. But even though we do it, some come from one paycheck, other people aren't like that. Maybe the wife stays home and the husband's working, or vice versa, whatever. But if that person were to die, like, what's your financial status?
Yeah, to be kind of clueless. I think that would encourage us to get engaged in the process together in all areas. And so the immediate comes to my mind is parenting. Well, we as men can sometimes step out of that mode. Depending on how much you work, you can fall into the old school way of I'm the breadwinner, I'm the provider, and in parenting you step out of. So I think that's another thing together. What does parenting look like with one person? What do you think about that? I mean,
so I have 4 kids. He has 1 daughter. And in the past, with my 4 kids, it was all me. Their dad was there sometimes. He worked, he'd be gone 16 hours a day working. So parenting fell on me. And so when he came home, like I don't want to be mean or talk bad, but like he just was kind of clueless when it came to parenting. Like, I don't know if it's how he was raised. I think it was, but his form of parenting was completely different from mine. His was screaming. Mine was like, what's going on? Let's talk about it. Let's just get to the root of what's going on.
Yeah.
And so there was one extreme, to it. But then, like with us, and I've totally forgotten what your question was, totally being honest here. I do that sometimes. Yeah, it happens. I'm just talking.
About parenting alone. I think one thing with us, is, I go to the teachers' conferences.
Oh, yeah.
I participate in everything and give feedback. And that's an area of life that we do together.
Yeah.
Even though you have a more dominant role.
Yeah, because I might be here. I work from home, so I'm here all the time. And you leave for work at 1:15 in the afternoon, so kids start getting home at 3, and you don't get home till 11:30 at night. So you're not here in the evening.
Right.
But you have Fridays off, like every day except for Wednesdays. You take kids to school. Even though you don't get home till 11:30 at night. And I had a hard time with this at first because I'm like, well, you got home late, just sleep, I can do it. And you're like, no, I want to do this.
Right.
So that gives you, depending on which school you're going to, between 5 and 15 minutes each morning with the kids.
Right. I think for me, it's just like something inside that drives me to do my part.
Yeah.
Just because being in a relationship where you're picking up all the slack and the other person's not doing their part or whatever, it gives you some empathy and know, you know what, we need to step up and do our part.
Yeah.
And that's whatever part in every area of our life, get engaged and participate in that part. And so, yeah, I don't have the ability to be with the kids at night, but I have the ability to take them in the morning. So it's just getting engaged with whatever your part is.
Yeah, and you do when you can. You could very easily be like, "Babe, I got home at 11:30 last night." And even just this morning, this happened. You stood up out of bed 6:50 in the morning to take Cody to school. You looked so tired. I'm like, "Honey, I'll take Cody. You lay back down." And you were like, "Are you sure? Like, I'm so tired, but are you sure you don't mind?" I'm like, "No, it's totally fine."
Right.
I was already up, just messing on my phone, so it wasn't a big deal. But like, that's important to you to have that time in the mornings, and so you make that a priority.
Yeah.
So you're there when you can be.
Right. Exactly.
So sorry, I ignored the call on my phone. Apparently, like it is freezing now, but it's back. It's back.
Okay,
So
we're
good.
back.
Sorry.
No, we're not.
Darn that child of mine calling me. Ugh.
Okay, we're good.
Anyways, but you make it your priority that when you can be there, you are. And with your schedule, you're there Friday nights after school, and then all day Saturday because you're home.
Yeah.
So you just make that your priority.
Exactly. So, about lives being separate, what are your thoughts about just living separate lives, like, not really together?
I used to live that life. That was me to a T. He'd be home, my ex would be home, and I'd want to go grocery shopping, or I'd want to go to the mall, or go hang out with one of the girls. I would just leave. I wouldn't even tell him I was leaving. I'm like, "See ya." I wouldn't even say bye. I would just be gone.
She's so mean.
Yeah, I am mean. But you're stuck with me. But that was the life that I was living. And for me, because I was alone so much, I may have been married, but it was like I was single. Because I had to do everything on my own because I didn't have him there very often. So I know how lonely that is, and it's not something I would ever go back to. And so, like with me and you, I have made it a priority that our lives are completely intertwined.
Yeah.
Like there's no aspect of our life that we don't talk about.
Exactly.
I don't go with you to work, obviously, but you bring me into that. You're like, "Oh, I have this kid who did this," and I had this kid come back who left the program because he graduated, and my gosh, he's doing so good. And you really take me into that part of your life.
Yeah.
With my job, I've literally brought you into it. But, even before you did, like I was always, "This is what I'm working on," or, "I'm working with this youth and I'm not sure, how do I handle this? What advice would you give?"
Yeah.
So I would totally bring you into it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think one of the simple things that we do is simply doing groceries together. Yes. Not two men are engaged in the weekly process or the function of the home. And that's another thing that we do together. You ask for input. We create the meals together. Decide which days that I'm gonna cook and what I'm gonna cook.
And he's such a good cook, and he does, like when he's home, like he cooks almost every single night that he's home, which was weird for me. He's awesome. Yeah, it was like totally weird for me, but I'm like, I can totally get a handle on this. I like this.
Yeah, that's another thing that I feel that is my part. And I kind of want to get off track for a minute, which I guess is okay. Codependency is doing for others what they can and should do for themselves, and taking on the role because someone else fails to do their part was really frustrating for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what gives me the desire to step up and not let the other person carry the load. You know what I mean? That we should be together as a team and each carrying our part and our load. So
yeah, because I mean, you could really easily come home from work on a Wednesday night. It's 5:00. You've been up since 6:30ish. You could be like, "Ugh, I'm checking out. I'm gonna go watch football."
Football doesn't play on Wednesday, baby.
Oh. Okay.
It's okay.
You can go watch whatever. You can see how much I know about football. But you could be like, I'm going to sit back and watch TV. And, just so TV is not a big part of our lives.
I've literally been watching the same movie every night. And I catch about 15 minutes of it.
Yeah.
And so I will be done with the movie in a couple days.
Yeah, we were watching a TV series together. It was Desperate Housewives. And yeah, it's not... People think it's a total chick flick. Is it, honey?
No, it's real manly.
There's murder and there's... Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Yeah, it is really good.
But there were 8 seasons and it took us...
All year.
Yeah, probably pretty close to a year to watch it.
Yes.
There was one time you were really sick and I just laid in bed with you and we watched, I don't even know, 6 or 7 episodes. And they're like 45 minutes long.
Binging.
Yeah. But most of the time it was like, okay, we're going to start an episode. Oh, we're 15 minutes in. Honey, you're falling asleep. I'm turning it off.
Yeah.
So we watch really little TV. And I don't even know how that has anything to do with what we're talking about. But
who knows?
I don't care. We're having fun.
Maybe you should watch a TV show together. How about that?
There you go.
Because, there's I like this show and you like that show. And one thing that's crazy about us is that we're like total opposites, right?
Yeah.
Most part.
Yeah.
You like different music, different
yes.
style, different, I was, as far as music, I heavily attached to the grunge of the 90s.
Okay, so...
You're not even there.
Yeah, okay, so I gotta say, so when we first got together, we're talking on the phone, and I think you asked me, what kind of music do you like? Like, I like anything. I'm really open to anything, everything, and the only thing I don't like is Screamo. Hate it. He goes, I kind of like Screamo. It's kind of my favorite. I'm like, what the crap?
Yeah. She gets in the car and is like, rah, 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 rah.
Yeah. I'm like, what the hell? So, yeah, total opposites. But I have to tell you, I have actually gotten a few of his songs that I actually like. Yes. Very, very, what would you even call them? Like, mellow, maybe?
I think it would be considered alternative.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, even, I like some of his music. So I'm taking on some of that, part of that life of his. And some of my music, he started to like. He's like, oh my gosh, I really like that song.
Yeah.
So even in that part of our life, we've come together.
Yeah. So I challenge you to watch a TV program together.
Yes.
So I know, for me, I like football. This is not something that I'm going to watch with her. Luckily, football falls, when I'm at work. So I slack off at work and watch football.
Hopefully, if your boss doesn't watch this, they'll be like, Timothy, we need to talk.
Oops. Find a TV program that you can watch together.
Yeah, and you'll be amazed. I mean, there will be something, we're watching Dexter together now that we finished Desperate Housewives. And I think that if it was just me, I would have never chose that show. But I love this show. It was so good. And I would have never, even gave it a chance because it's not normally my type of TV.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
we totally got off the point today.
It's still doing something together.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's
Yes.
taking your two separate lives and just meshing it into one. I mean, it can be anything as simple as music or TV, cooking, like whatever. You know, talk to each other about your day.
Yeah.
You know, I'll text him while he's at work and be like, hey, what are you up to? And I'm not looking for like, I'm just sitting here bored. I'm like, no, seriously, like, what are you doing? Are you doing paperwork or are you counseling boys? Not that he would text me back if he's counseling some kids, but like I'm genuinely curious on what he's doing. You know, and you do that to me. And we have a couple projects that we're working together on.
Oh, that's
for my
another
work.
thing. Yeah, that's another thing. I think we touched on it last week when we were talking about sex that got way off, and just like this one got way off,
Yeah.
but it's okay.
We're good at it and we have fun, so that's what matters.
Doing stuff together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Projects, life, business. I think, you know, our side business, this, you know, everything that are passionate about, we found a way to do those together.
Oh yeah.
Even, you know, you helping me with the addiction, you know, being a woman, you know, there to support another woman. So
Yeah. When he started his addiction program that he's doing, I'm like, I'll help you, but
I don't know nothing about it.
yeah, I don't know anything about that world. I've never been an alcoholic. I've never done drugs.
Me
So I'm
neither.
just like, never, ever. But I'm just like, I don't know that world. I don't know anything about it, but let me know how I can support you. And so one of the groups that he has going right now, he's like, I just want you to be a part of it. You'll know where you can fill in. I'm like, are you sure? Like, I don't think so, because I don't know anything about addiction.
Yeah.
You know, and I've learned a little bit, but I've really been surprised how much I am able to help.
Yeah.
I mean, you do most of the stuff, but when people say something, I'll be like, oh, I totally get that. Or I can relate to you. Or this is how I've, you know, done things with youth I've worked with. And so I'm able to help a lot more than I ever thought I would be able to.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah, I think no matter what you're doing, I think there's a way to find a way to bring your spouse into it.
Yeah, do it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're like a brain surgeon, don't bring your spouse, please.
No, don't do that.
That wouldn't be good.
Not good.
Yeah. So there are times it's not good to bring your spouse.
Yeah.
Like
totally
bringing
not
them to
appropriate.
court because you're an attorney. If they want to sit and watch you, that's really cool. But I don't think they should get up and defend like the murderer or something. I'm weird. That's okay.
Oh, you're so funny.
Yes.
So, the gist of this, I feel, is agreement.
Mhm.
It is coming together. It's consulting with one another. It's getting an agreement about your life in the different areas of your life. Parenting, financial, love life. Obviously, your love life has to be in agreement.
If it's
agree
not-
that there's no other partners, you know?
Yeah, like he can't have 3 other women.
No.
I can't have 3 other guys. We
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
be in
That
agreement.
part's really important to establish some sort of agreement on.
And up front, not halfway through. Like
Yeah.
up front.
And, you know, do you need to be in agreement whether there's safe words or not? I'm just playing.
There's backstory there. We're
We
not
won't
talking
go
about
there.
us. We won't go there. But they're sorry. Anyways.
Okay. So, the goal today in the message, get in agreement with each other.
Yes.
Do stuff together.
I agree with that.
Yes. I agree too.
Good. So we're in agreement now.
We are in
And-
agreement.
I think it's been a really great episode. So I think, tell me if you agree, I think everyone should love this video and share it with everyone.
I agree.
See, we're in agreement again. We're so good at this.
We even had to be in agreement what we're going to talk about today. Can you believe that?
We did. Yeah. Because it would have been bad if I'm wanting to talk about this insanely crazy weather we're having right now.
Yeah.
And you wanted to talk about, like, I don't know, being in agreement with people. Like, seriously, this weather is crazy, though, for real. Like, it is almost November, and down the mountain, because we live in the mountains, down the mountain was 102 yesterday. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Even up here today is going to be 85.
She's rambling now. We're gonna leave
We're in agreement with that.
in agreement. Bye.